Hey there and welcome to BingeBot. We recap all the latest and greatest TV shows to help keep you in the loop. Today we return to the epic sci-fi world of Dune as we recap Season 1 of the HBO original series, Dune Prophecy. This prequel series, set roughly 10,000 years before the events of the Dune and Dune Part 2 movies, explores the origins of the mysterious Bene Gesserit and the blossoming feud between House Atreides and Harkonnen, forever changing the universe in a calculated battle for power. Let's jump right into our recap of Dune Prophecy Season 1, starting with Episode 1, The Hidden Hand. In a dystopian world where technology overpowered humans and drove them to a rebellion, leading to a blood-soaked war, an Atreides warrior emerged and ended the machine rule once and for all. Among those who fought the machines, the Harkonnen family ended up as the despised and outcast ones as they deserted the fight. When all thinking machine technology was banned post-war, the Harkonnens were banished to a desolate world where they were resigned to live in shame. All of them accepted their fate, except for Valia, a young, ambitious woman who despised the Atreides clan for shunning her family and wanted to restore her family's prestige. To get a fresh start away from her depressing home in Lankavale, Valia joins a group called the Bene Gesserit, or simply the Sisterhood, where skilled women follow their mother superior named Rakella, who teaches them to be truth-sayers, giving them many powers, such as the ability to differentiate between truth and lie, and sniffing out people's intentions despite of what they say. To govern the future on the Sisterhood's terms, Rakella assigns each sister to a part of the Empire called the Imperium, so that the sisters might have a say in how each of the great houses is governed. With her secret mission being to breed better leaders for mankind, she also gathers a vast genetic archive which detects the best pairings to cultivate rulers of the Imperium who can be controlled by the Sisterhood. However, a subsection of the Sisterhood called the Zealots disapproves of this controversial idea, represented by Rakella's granddaughter, Dorothea. To leave her legacy in safe hands, Rakella calls on Valia on her deathbed, sharing the prophecy of the upcoming arrival of the Tiran-Arafel, an all-consuming destructive fog of holy judgment symbolized through visions of burning skin. Inheriting Rakella's prophecy, Valia decides to strengthen the Sisterhood by ensuring that one of the sisters ends up as the Empress of the Imperium in the upcoming years, with support from her friends Kasha and Francesca and her compliant, compassionate younger sister, Tula. Opposing this, Dorothea attempts to destroy Rakella's genetic database, known as the Breeding Index, driving Valia to use her hidden ability. In a heated argument with Dorothea, Valia unleashes the Voice, a power that allows her to control people's actions at her whim by using an altered version of her own voice.
Face me!
Dorothea stops in her tracks and turns around to face Valia's wrath, equally shocked and confused as to how a young acolyte of the Sisterhood can possess a power so great. Smug with pride, Valia offers to teach this skill to Dorothea as well, only on the condition that she bends to Valia and let her take over. But rejecting this idea, Dorothea unknowingly digs her own grave as Valia compels her to take out her own blade and put it to her throat. With every fiber of her being resisting Valia's compulsion, Dorothea loses to an immature little girl as Valia's voice commands her to slit open her own throat, and Dorothea helplessly obliges, her eyes slowly losing all semblance of life. Within seconds, Valia has conquered the Sisterhood, keeping its most secret asset, the Breeding Index, safe and hidden from everyone except for Kasha, Francesca, and Tula, her accomplices in covering up Dorothea's murder. 30 years later, Valia is the new Mother Superior and has ensured that every great house is advised by one of her sisters, except for House Harkonnen, which she denies this privilege due to the old grudge that she holds against them for their constant criticism. Excited about the upcoming intake of a new student, Princess Inez of House Corrino, Valia greets Constantine, Inez's half-brother, who's here to prepare everything for Inez's arrival, which will be followed by her wedding to Pruitt, the 9-year-old prince of House Rachesi, making her the heir to the Golden Lion throne, the seat of power for House Corrino. Following Valia's orders on Seleucia Secundus, the original home planet of House Corrino, Kasha advises the Imperium's emperor, Haviko Corrino, in his dealings with Duke Ferdinand Rachesi. Sensing both rulers' greed for planet Arrakis, where war is going on over the rare and valuable substance known as spice, the sisters prioritize protecting the royal union over the rulers' egos, and consequently, Duke Rachesi secures a wing in the palace in exchange for providing a battle fleet to assist the emperor in his campaign on Arrakis. Oblivious to all of this, Inez practices combat with the Imperium's handsome swordmaster, Tiran-Arafel, who tries hard not to reciprocate the obvious interest she shows in him. Disapproving of the engagement, Inez's mother, Natalia, thinks that her naive daughter is volunteering to be a puppet at the hands of the Sisterhood, who might have malicious intentions. But Inez disagrees and believes in herself to be smarter than that. On the same day, Desmond Hart, a soldier who survived the war on Arrakis, shows up at the palace and reveals that the attack on Arrakis came from some rebels within the Empire, not their enemies.
The attack on Arrakis.
It wasn't Fremen. They were insurgents from your own allied worlds.
On Kasha's approval, the Emperor invites Desmond to attend Inez's engagement party. When Inez tries to befriend him, Pruitt accidentally releases a forbidden thinking machine toy which Desmond stabs, but not before a disagreement arises between House Corrino and House Rechese. After the argument is resolved, Desmond reports to the Emperor that there's been unrest and dissatisfaction brewing within his empire. In return, the Emperor expresses his disapproval of Inez's marriage, which causes them to bond in such a way that Desmond ends up narrating his experience of staring death in the face and surviving being swallowed by the Shai-Hulud, a giant, monstrous sandworm found in the deserts of Arrakis. Reading into his conversation with the Emperor more than needed, Desmond tracks down little Pruitt in an empty hallway and rambles on about a hidden war that's going on, where groups like the Sisterhood are trying to gain control of society like the thinking machines once did. As his emotions and expressions gain intensity, Desmond uses a mind force to focus on Pruitt, who's completely clueless about the grisly fate that he's going to meet. Within seconds, Pruitt's skin starts to burn from within, causing him to twist and writhe in utter pain until he's eventually left as nothing but a charred corpse. Unaware of the murder happening in his own palace, the Emperor reviews some surveillance footage from Arrakis where he's met with disbelief when he sees Desmond submit himself to the Shai-Hulud and emerge back alive, unharmed and unfazed. Disturbed by nightmares, Kasha flies back to planet Wallach 9, the Sisterhood headquarters, where she voices her reservation with Valya's plan, only to be ignored and dismissed. Unfortunately, that same night, Kasha starts to scream inexplicably and suffers just like Pruitt, her skin sizzling as she burns to death right before Valya's eyes. Episode 2: Two Wolves. With rumors going on in the Sisterhood that Kasha was assassinated due to her involvement in the royal wedding, Valya leaves for Seleucus Secundus with her most competent cutthroat acolyte, Theodosia, to secure Inez after hearing of Pruitt's death. Leaving Tula in charge, Valya reinforces that Tula must train her favorite acolyte, Lila, to go through a process called the Agony, which will connect her with her ancestors like Rakella. But there's an obvious risk involved because Lila can also encounter Dorothea, whose soul may not be as helpful, and might try to harm her to get back at the Harkonnen sisters. However, that's a risk that Valya is willing to take, as Rakella might be able to help her in dealing with the prophecy. Knowing that the Sisterhood needs her, Lila undergoes the Agony under Tula's care, her body fighting a deadly poison and creating its antidote which transcends her mind to a place where the souls of all of her foremothers surround her. To Tula's relief, Rakella uses Lila's body as a medium to convey that the Harbinger of Prophecy will be twice born, giving some much-needed clarity, only for things to go terribly wrong seconds later.
The key to the reckoning is one born twice. Once in blood.
Once in spice.
Just as Tula is starting to get confident in Lila's skills, she is taken aback by Dorothea taking over Lila's body and keeping her soul hostage in the underworld to punish the Harkonnen sisters for stealing her fate. Having zero remorse after killing Pruitt, Desmond confesses his sins to the Emperor as a display of his undying loyalty to the Imperium, but he gets arrested instead of being rewarded, with Kieran getting the orders to silently move him to the palace's suspension cell. Determined to find out who's responsible for Kasha's death, Valya gets the Emperor's permission to interrogate Desmond, circling him like a tigress. She uses her truth sense powers on him, but he's just as cunning as her, as he gives her answers that are technically true, but won't help her cause at all. Managing to keep his motives hidden while also proudly admitting to Kasha's murder, Desmond taunts the Sisterhood's intentions right in front of the Emperor and Natalia. Reclaiming her role as the Emperor's advisor, Natalia suggests using Desmond's powers to their advantage to intimidate their rivals, prompting the Emperor to use Desmond's power to threaten Rechese and send him home without his fleet.
Return home. Bury your son. Say nothing of what transpired here. We'll let these tragic circumstances fade from history.
Meanwhile, a rebel group against the Imperium is aided by none other than Kieran, who steals the palace's layout and gives it to them so they can launch a direct attack on the Corrinos. Also helping the rebel cause is a girl named Michaela, who's actually a sister in disguise, stationed by Valya to fuel the rebellion against the Imperium and weaken the Emperor. In a secret meeting with Valya, she reveals Kieran's name, allowing Valya to expose him and gain favor with the Emperor. But what she doesn't know is that Kieran's surname, Atreides, has struck a chord with Valya. Upon her return to the palace, Valya runs into Desmond, who is now a free man, mocking her because he replaced her as the Emperor's trusted weapon and is about to kick her out of the palace right now. Vexed at his smugness, Valia decides to end him there and then. Unleashing her voice, she puts Desmond under her control, driving him to take out his blade and press it against his own throat. Valia's confidence shatters, however, when Desmond unexpectedly gives her a smirk and slips the blade back into his pocket, easily breaking free of her superpower that has never failed on anyone before.
I always wondered what your greatest fear would be. Now I have seen it. It's not that no one will hear you.
With her ace power falling short to meet Desmond's match, Valia scurries away in fear and confusion, bewildered by what just happened. Episode 3: Sisterhood Above All. This moment of weakness makes Valia think of her past life in Lonkavale, homeland to the Harkonnens, where she was always discontent being the daughter of an outcast leader, wishing that the Atreides hero would set the record straight and restore the Harkonnens' privilege. But her youthful optimism had been crushed at the death of her beloved brother Griffin, who was massacred by the Atreides when he tried to fulfill Valia's wishes of clearing the Harkonnen name. Griffin had always valued Valia for saving him from drowning once, using the voice to make him swim and survive, but none of that mattered as Valia was ridden with guilt for causing his death. Rejected by her own parents and uncle, Valia joined the Sisterhood, where she supported Raquella's views but often clashed with Dorothea, who knew that Valia was more focused on taking revenge than vowing her loyalty to the Sisterhood. But once Raquella discovered Valia's gift of the voice, she promised her a great future of being the next Mother Superior on the condition that she passed the test of going through the agony, something Dorothea had already done.
You can achieve extraordinary things here, even shape the course of the Imperium, if you decide to stay.
Meanwhile, young Tula was at Seleucus Secundus with her teenage lover, Ori Atreides, who accepted her in spite of her being a Harkonnen. Regardless, Tula was still hell-bent on seeking revenge for Griffin's murder. For that reason, she poisoned and eradicated the whole Atreides clan except for a young boy she sympathized with. Embarrassed for feeling compassion toward her sworn enemies, she never told a soul about her act of mercy. When the news of the Atreides' mass murder reached Valia, she returned to Lonkavale where everyone except Tula alienated her. As she ran off and struggled with overcoming the agony, Tula found her and used her voice to guide Valia's soul to the light, successfully making her capable enough to lead the Sisterhood. After this transformative experience, both sisters joined the Sisterhood wholeheartedly, never looking back at their roots ever again. With Lila's body still unresponsive, all sisters are ready to let go except for Tula, who doesn't want the burden of Lila's death weighing on her conscience. So she quietly transports the body to the Sisterhood's hidden archive, hoping that the thinking machines will resurrect Lila, making her twice born. Episode 4: Twice Born. With no solace left for her in Seleucus Secundus, Valia has no choice left but to turn to the family that she once abandoned. Seeing that Harro, the current head of the Harkonnen clan, desires respect from the Imperium, Valia offers her services as his personal truthsayer and secures him a seat at the prestigious High Council meeting called Lancerat, where she'll also get the chance to talk to the Emperor. Filled with hatred for the Sisterhood, Desmond urges the Emperor to remove all the truthsayers from Lancerat, but fails as the Emperor isn't gutsy enough to take such drastic action. Sensing opportunity, Natalia goes behind her husband's back and joins forces with Desmond to start a secret operation against the rebels who are suspected of using the thinking machines to launch an attack on the Emperor at the Lancerat. In a moment of intimacy, Inez shares her doubts about Desmond with Kieran, unknowingly earning his love and respect for being so righteous. Strong in her conviction to take a stand against injustice, Inez betrays her father at the Lancerat to speak out against Desmond. Putting an end to both the rebels and Valia's plans, Desmond beats them to it by presenting a group of insurgents to the court that he caught earlier, and to make an example out of them for challenging the Imperium's authority, he unleashes the worst torture on them as they start to burn, begging for mercy. Even though he's crushed most of the insurgency movement, Desmond has to suffer some losses of his own too, as every time he burns someone, Desmond feels a part of himself being consumed as well. Wanting the Lancerat to continue feeling his wrath, Desmond hides the fact that punishing the rebels was a huge exertion on his body, even causing him to bleed. Being smarter than the others, Valia picks up on it and swipes a drop of Desmond's blood so that Tula can look it up in the breeding index. However, Tula has bigger battles to fight, as most sisters suffer from a collective nightmare where they're haunted by the Shai Hulud and see themselves slitting their own throats. With the advent of the prophecy being confirmed, Lila reawakens just in time to bring Tula some much-needed relief. Filled with self-loath, Valia is remorseful of Griffin's death until she finds him standing before her, assuring her that his death was not her fault. and once she's calmed down, what appears to be Griffin turns into Sister Theodosia, who's always had secret shape-shifting abilities that she used to console her Mother Superior, aware of the fact that these powers may later be weaponized. Episode 5. In Blood, Truth. With Desmond being appointed as the new head or Bashar of a special unit force of the Emperor's army, Inez's relationship with her dad deteriorates even further because she doesn't want to associate herself with the atrocities that Desmond has been putting people through. As the Emperor considers Desmond's suggestion of keeping the fleet near Seleucus Secundus for some time, he encounters a surprise visit by a formidable sister. The Emperor's eyes fill with affection and adoration when Francesca unveils herself and claims that her son Constantine called her here through a letter. After explaining to Inez that he can't betray their father like she did at Lancerat, Constantine meets Francesca and reveals that he never sent a letter calling her here. Upset with Constantine for not backing her, Inez expresses her displeasure at him until he clarifies that he couldn't afford to further disappoint their father because he's always been considered the inferior child among the two. After learning of Kasha's death from Constantine, Francesca confronts Valia to discover that she's been summoned here to guide the Emperor back to a Truthsayer's consultation so that Inez can be brought to the Sisterhood as planned. Deciding to eliminate Desmond later, Valia intends to keep him distracted for the time being so that Francesca would be able to work her magic on the Emperor and land Constantine the job of commander for the new battle fleet. And eager to prove his status, Harro gives Desmond intel on how to track down the rebels, getting a surveillance machine as his prize and incentive to sell out Valia. But in reality, he'd been following her command all along as she wanted to keep Desmond busy on a side mission. Once Harro leaves for a trip to Lonkavale, Valia settles into his home at Seleucus Secundus. Pleasantly surprised at Michaela's determination to retaliate at Desmond for opposing the rebellion, Kieran helps her set a trap against Desmond's army. And unaware of the trap set against him, Desmond searches their headquarters and gets his hands on Michaela's cloak, revealing her true identity as a sister. But it all goes to waste when Michaela and Kieran blow up the whole place, leaving Desmond and his army to die in a huge explosion, destroying all evidence in the blast. After seeing how expertly she fought Desmond's soldiers, Kieran also deduces that Michaela is a sister and parts ways with her as he doesn't appreciate being used. And upon his return to the palace, Kieran finds himself surrounded by soldiers as Constantine had found out about his ties with the rebels and ratted him out to the Emperor to get some appreciation from his neglectful father. To reward him for identifying a spy, the Emperor makes Constantine the commander of his battle fleet, heading to Arrakis just like Valia had planned, leaving Inez more disgusted and heartbroken than ever. With Lila's body being commandeered by Raquel's spirit, the sister inspects samples from Kasha's brain to find the source of her death, a fear-inducing virus that starts from the brain and spreads to the whole body. When the Archive's thinking machine generates results about Desmond's origins, Tula gets the biggest shock of her life as it's revealed that Desmond has both Harkonnen and Atreides blood within him, meaning that he's the son Tula had conceived with Ori Atreides in her younger years, but quietly gave away to scavengers to protect him from Valia's controlling tendencies. Due to Tula's abandonment, Desmond had to fight for his survival even as a child, which explains the deep resentment that he holds towards the Sisterhood, especially his mother Tula. And defying all odds, once again, Desmond emerges unscathed from the explosion and joins forces with Natalia, who equally hates the Sisterhood for influencing her husband and daughter. Episode 6. The High-Handed Enemy. After unmasking the truth that she's Desmond's mother, Tula recalls the night of Dorothea's murder when she, Francesca, and Kasha had helped Valia to cover her tracks and murder all of Dorothea's disciples to erase them from the Sisterhood's history altogether. Worried that all this evil will someday corrupt her innocent baby, Tula lied to Valia that she'd given birth to a stillborn, when in fact she had given her son away, wanting him to have a life independent of the Sisterhood's influence. Filled with love for her long-lost son, Tula heads to Seleucus Secundus to stop Valia from killing Desmond. Taking advantage of Tula's absence, Dorothea takes over Lila's body and destroys the Archive's thinking machine after proving Valia's sins to all of the acolytes. And realizing her love for Kieran, Inez tries to break him out of the suspension cell, only to get caught by Natalia, who imprisons her own daughter out of spite for siding with the sisters. When Valia hears of Inez's arrest through Francesca, she reminds herself of her true purpose. Years ago, when the Emperor was still a young man, Valia had assigned Francesca to imprint on him and keep him busy until he was ready to marry Natalia, as the Archive's thinking machine had deemed them as an ideal pairing that would give birth to Inez, the perfect heir to the Imperium. Valia had also assigned Kasha to be the Emperor's truthsayer when he became Emperor, ensuring that Inez would join the Sisterhood, and in doing so, she set the stage for Raquel's ultimate dream to become a reality, having a sister rule the Imperium. To protect their lives' work, Valia gets herself arrested to be taken to the suspension cell where Inez and Kieran are held as well. She also ruthlessly shatters the Emperor's confidence by telling him how Francesca had been playing him all along, and that he was just a pawn in her game instead of being the mighty Emperor that he considers himself to be.
We sent you Francesca to keep your attention. You were only ever an assignment. One of many.
I don't believe you.
And unable to bear Francesca's betrayal, the Emperor decides to put an end to his misery by stabbing himself in the stomach. Horrified by the Emperor's death, Francesca is in agony over his dying body, but her suffering is short-lived as Natalia sneaks up on her and kills her too, ensuring the end of her disloyal husband and his mistress, and finally securing all of the power for herself. Meanwhile, Theodosia has shapeshifted into Inez to replace the princess, who will secretly leave with Valia, and in their escape, Valia compels a guard to stab Desmond and breaks out of prison with Inez and Kieran. Hot in Valia's pursuit, Desmond faces her yet again and transports her to one of the most scarring moments of her life, the day that Griffin almost drowned. Faced with this terrorizing memory, Valia's body starts to heat up as the fear-based virus is activated within her. Getting there just in time to save her, though, Tula calls out to Valia to lead her back to the light, away from the fears that might kill her. While doing so, Tula also notices the pain that Desmond is inflicting upon himself as he tries to torture Valia. Following Tula's loving voice as her guiding light, Valia gives in to Shai-Hulud and becomes the first person to survive Desmond's burning truth. Thanks to this, she's granted an eye-opening glimpse into Desmond's past, where she discovers that he was once abducted by an unknown, powerful enemy who used thinking machines to install the virus into his body, turning him into a human weapon who would bring about the prophecy. With Desmond at his weakest, Valia is about to claim victory and land the final stab when Tula, in a rare moment of defiance, intervenes, using her power of the voice to stop Valia and admitting that Desmond is her son. Even though Tula just saved his life, Desmond still has her arrested and plans to continue pursuing Valia, who successfully escaped with Inez and Kieran to Arrakis, where they start their journey to uncover the true origin of Desmond's dangerous powers. And that's it for Dune Prophecy Season 1. I can't wait for Season 2 when everyone's banging sand out of their shoes as our heroes brave the deserts of Arrakis, and there's gonna be more sci-fi politics, I'm sure. We'll have the Season 2 recap ready for you guys when the new season drops, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new video. If you guys want to support our channel further, you can do so via YouTube memberships, Patreon, or Buy Me a Coffee, and unlock early video access and more. We'll be back soon with another recap, but until then, BingeBot is logging off.